Hey everyone, Alex Slate here from Trencher Mortgages. Going to be going over a case study of how to buy a house. And this case study is looking to help you learn the ins and outs of actually purchasing a home and the steps involved, including where to start, where to end, and everything in between. So hopefully this case study will help you either make that jump or even help you make the decision as to whether or not you even want to buy a house. So we'll jump right into it. First, what are we actually going to be talking about today? I'm going to be talking about a little bit about myself in case you don't know who I am. Then I'm going to be talking about should you actually buy, some home buying steps, what is a mortgage, final closing costs, uh, finalizing your purchase, and then lastly, the next case study we're going to be moving on to next week. A little bit about me. I've worked in the financial industry for five plus years, 3 years as a financial advisor and 2 years as a mortgage agent and continuing. I work as a team with Tried and True Mortgages with Aaron Porcaro, he's my business partner. And then Empire Mortgage Group is the brokerage we work under. We're located in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We serve Canadians all across Canada, mainly in Ontario and in the Hamilton area, but we can service other provinces as well. With Tried and True Mortgages, we have over 50 five-star Google reviews and Facebook reviews. I'm a partner of Tried and True Mortgages, like I mentioned, and have personally helped over 250 clients between my years as a senior financial advisor, not only doing investments there, but mortgages, and then as a mortgage agent now where we specialize in mortgage lending. Moving on, this is an important question before we even get started into how to actually buy a house. Should you buy? So should I buy? And what we see with our clients and with most people is you run into one of three hurdles or objections as to whether or not you even want to buy. And as a Canadian, I can definitely relate to this because we see a lot of these objections come up every single day. The first one is affordability. So, just giving an example, last year I had a client come to me. This was nearing the end of the year, and um, I could tell their confidence was not there because they had put in some bids on some properties and they just kept not being able to get to the purchase price that they were looking for because the affordability in their area had went out of the price range. And so the problem that they ran into is that they just thought they were never going to be able to afford a home. And so after we chatted with them a little bit and we assessed their situation, were able to come up with a few different solutions to be able to get them into a home and be able to buy their first property. So affordability is a big one. And like I mentioned here, yeah, over the last decade, housing prices in Canada have skyrocketed, and it poses a lot of challenges for most individuals going to buy a property. So them included, but we were able to get them over that roadblock and into a home. Secondly, we see a lot of people talking about being house poor. This is a term where you buy a home, but then all you can afford is the home cost, mortgage, insurance, utilities, maintenance, etc. And you never really want to buy a home and be in that situation just because, yes, that now you're living in your own house and you're paying down your mortgage and you're building equity and so on. But can you do anything? Can you still go to the restaurant if you want to? Can you even feed your family? So those are things you have to question. So I just wrote here, yeah, for most Canadians, managing mortgage payments and debt can prove difficult due to the high costs associated with homes and living expenses overall. And then lastly, the third objection we run into is flexibility. So flexibility is the ability to get up and move quickly. So if you're currently living with parents or you're currently renting, it's not very difficult if you just want to look for a new location because let's say your job moved to a different city or your job even moved to a different province, whatever the case. When you buy a home, you lose some of that flexibility because it's not easy necessarily to just buy your home or sell your home and move. There's a lot more to it than just saying 1 month notice to my landlord, 1 month notice or not even notice to your family, I'm just moving out. Um, with a home, you have to set up a bunch of things logistically, get your realtor, get the lawyer, etc. And so you do lose a little bit of flexibility there. And that's why we see some people a little bit hesitant to move. So I wrote here, yeah, some people worry that buying a home could limit their mobility in the future and lose their ability to relocate if the need arises. One thing I'll mention here is we don't actually see this happen we don't see this happen often where people are just out of the blue are needing to move. Normally it's a thing that you've planned for in the next 3 to 5 years. Oh, I have my job right now and I'm thinking, in 3 or 4 to 5 years, I'm going to have a promotion. I might need to move to a different city. But at that time, we'll make that decision. And so when you are looking to buy a home, there are options to be able to um, um, make it easier on yourself to move in the future. So just bear that in mind if you do have that objection yourself. And I think it's definitely a fair objection. So these are the three main obstacles or main objections that we tend to see when or hear when we're talking with clients. Now, what are the actual steps when you do buy a home? And there's really four main steps when you are going to get in even into the process. First, you're going to want to get pre-approved. And what pre-approved means, for those who don't know, is this means you need to get pre-approved for your mortgage and maximum affordability. So let's imagine a home is $500,000. Most people are not going to have been able to save $500,000 to just outright purchase the home. And this is where mortgages come into play, because mortgages will allow you to borrow money, some of the money for the home purchases. So for example, that $500,000 home, you can take 100,000 of your own resources and then $400,000 mortgage and be able to add that together for the full 500,000. So this pre-approval tells you how much of a mortgage you can get pre-approved for, and then adding your down payment on, what's the maximum pre-approval that you can actually buy a house for. So what I wrote here, get pre-approved by a bank or broker to determine how much you can afford to pay for a home. Exactly what I mentioned. Step two is actually, once you've done that pre-approval, you want to get into the home search process. And so what I wrote here, you're going to work with your realtor to look at homes in your budget and desired location. You're going to determine the type of home you will want to live in. This is, I think, an underutilized, or it's not as important in some people's minds as to where they're going to live. And I personally believe that where you live is going to have a huge impact, not only on yourself financially because of how the cost of the homes, but on your mental and your well-being overall. Because yes, if you can buy a home, in far out suburbs or in a city an hour away, it's possible, maybe because the home prices are lower. But at the end of the day, if you're having to drive for work, or you have to drive just to see your family, you might not enjoy that as much. And the let's just call it the cost of having that mortgage or having a more expensive home might outweigh might actually be a better option than living far and having that cost on your mental state and your ability to be closer to the things you love, the people you love. So when you're doing a home search, make sure that you are working with your realtor to determine what locations are affordable and right for you. And then also the type of home you're going to want to live in. Detached home, semi-detached, condo, etc. Step three, moving on. Once you actually do find a home that you like and you think is suitable for yourself, you and your family, you're going to put in an offer on the home. So putting in an offer, like I mentioned here, put in an offer and negotiate with the seller. Sign off on the offer once you have agreed on the terms and conditions. So it's not as easy as I made it sound just in this little paragraph here, but that is the gist of it. So let's imagine again, suppose you're going to purchase or put an offer on a $500,000 home. You're going to put in what you're willing to pay for that $500,000 home. and also the closing date and any other terms and conditions. So purchase price, you're going to want to try to negotiate. Obviously, as a buyer, you want to try to take advantage and get less than the listed price, but it's not always the case. And then you're going to choose when you actually want to move in. Generally speaking, we see on average 60 to 90-day closings, or 2 to 3 months, although you could actually technically stretch it out 6 or 12 months, but we rarely ever see that happen. And then, so those two things aside, you're going to have other terms and conditions. So terms and conditions might include, are the appliances staying with the house? Is there any minor repairs that need to be done? Who's going to fix them? Who's going to pay for it? And so on. And these are all things your realtor will discuss with you and will go through with you. So once you do put the offer on the home, and let's imagine that it is accepted, you're going to want to have a few things on the offer. First, if you did do a pre-approval, which we obviously highly recommend, you're going to want to have a condition of financing, excuse me, because the condition of financing is going to tell you or give us the ability to submit your information into the lender, into the bank, and determine if you're approved for that house and for that amount. Yes, with the pre-approval, we can give you hypotheticals pre-approval amounts based on your income and current scenario, but some lenders will appraise properties or look at properties and might just not like that location. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. So with the condition of financing, generally 5 business days, this gives us the time to submit to the lender and determine if that property and the amount that you're looking to purchase for is suitable. And another condition that generally you'll see with your offer, or that you should put on the offer, is a condition of inspection. So the inspection allows you the ability to have an inspector, a home inspector, come into the property and determine any flaws with the property. Is it good? Is it bad? Is there structural issues? Has there been water damage? And so on. And so having the condition of inspection is super important because, yes, on the surface, aesthetically, things might look fine, but underneath all that, or things that you might not notice, the inspector will find. Give you an example. About a month ago, I had a client purchase a property. He had a condition of inspection, thankfully. Amped about the property, super excited. And then we were about to sign off on the conditions, had the inspector go through, and what do you know? Just about $80,000 worth of structural damage that they were going to even have to repair before they could move into the house. So tough situation because the person was super excited about the property, but at the end of the day, you're already putting a large down payment, a lot of your savings into it. You can't really be adding another 80,000 or so. The thing is with the inspections that you might actually be able to negotiate down a little bit based on what you need to change about the property. But some of the things are not going to be able to be rehabilitated by the owner. And so that burden might fall on you. You might try to negotiate down the price, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a tough buy when you have things like structural issues, which is why it's super important to have that inspection. Moving on, once your offer is accepted and you go through the process of getting the mortgage approved, setting everything up, you're going to come to closing day. So this is when you finalize all outstanding conditions for your home purchase, including financing, legal, and moving logistics. So closing day, of course, you want to have a lot of these things done even before closing day. So that'll include your mortgage financing, legal documents signed, down payment brought to the lender. We're going to get into that a little bit more, or brought it to the lawyer, and then moving logistics. So moving companies, if you need one to help you move. So again, just to reiterate, 4 steps: get your pre-approval. After that, step 2, you're going to go into the home search. Step 3, you're going to make an offer. Once it's accepted, step 4, you're going to wait for the closing day and get everything set up in between step 3 and step 4. Moving on, so like I mentioned earlier, most people who buy a home in Canada, specifically because of home prices, are going to need some type of mortgage. And I want to go through a little bit about what a mortgage actually is, and to give you a background of why you'll need one, and how to go about securing one. So according to Investopedia, which is a common website for financial information, a mortgage is a type of loan used to purchase or maintain a home, plot of land, or other types of real estate. The borrower, meaning the purchaser, agrees to pay the lender over time, typically in a series of regular payments that are divided into principal and interest. The property then serves as collateral to secure the loan. So a few points I'll get into there. So it's a type of loan used to purchase or maintain a property. So in your case, let's imagine you're just purchasing a single family residential home. The residential property or the home is the collateral that you'll be securing the mortgage against. And then this mortgage, if we go back to our $500,000 purchase example, let's imagine you put a $100,000 down payment, you have a $400,000 mortgage. The mortgage of $400,000 is what you're going to pay off over the next 25 to 30 years. And as you pay it down, pay the mortgage down, you're going to be paying interest to the lender. And the interest is basically compensation for the lender for loaning you that money. Obviously, there's going to be different terms and conditions for every mortgage, but it's important to know that the mortgage just serves as a tool for you to be able to access purchasing a home when you don't have the full amount of the home value saved and ready to be utilized. Moving on to closing costs. So closing costs, this is between stage 3 and stage 4 there, as well as getting the mortgages between stage 3 and stage 4. Closing costs, you're going to really have 3 main costs. First, your legal costs. So this is generally somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000. Legal costs are basically, you go to your lawyer, the lawyer is going to set up the transaction between yourself and the seller. The seller is also going to have a lawyer. So your lawyer facilitates setting up the property lien in your name and the mortgage in your name, and then transferring the money to the seller's lawyer so that the seller gets the money. Generally, you're going to be between $1,500 and $2,000, like I mentioned. You shouldn't be more than $2,000 unless there's some outstanding conditions or other legal implications of buying that property. Land transfer costs. So land transfer costs, this is Canadian specific and even more so Ontario specific. Some provinces don't have as much land transfer or any at all. It's generally, we estimate it at 1.5% of the purchase price. So for example, if you have a $500,000 purchase price, the land transfer is going to be about $7,500. We tend to estimate that the land transfer is, or this 1.5% is going to include the land transfer and your legal cost. So just bear that in mind. But to be on the safe side, always budget the 1.5% for the land transfer and then the $1,500 to $2,000 for legal cost. It should be noticed also that if you are a first-time home buyer, now not everybody is, but if you are a first-time home buyer, there are some incentives for you to get a little bit of a reimbursement on this land transfer cost. Generally in Ontario, it's somewhere of up to $4,000 off, depending on your circumstance. So you have to ask your lawyer about that when you're closing. One other thing I want to mention about land transfer, if you're purchasing in the Toronto area, in Toronto City specific, your land transfer is actually going to be doubled. So just bear that in mind, that 7,500 would quickly become 15,000. And you have to really a budget for that, because that could be a huge closing cost if you didn't budget for it, and it'll be hard to come up with that money. And then our last cost is mover costs. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you need help moving your belongings to your new home, you'll have to factor in anywhere from 500 to 3,000, depending on your belongings. This number, if you're moving a lot of stuff, could even be higher, and depending on the difficulty of the move. So just budget that in if you are going to use movers. Some people, if they're living with their parents or just renting right now and don't have a lot of belongings, a lot of furniture, might be an easy move. You might be able to do it yourself. But if you are thinking that it's going to be a little bit more difficult of a move, you might want to hire a moving company and budget that money away as well. Finalizing your purchase. So once you've gotten the mortgage all set up, once you've done the inspection, waive the condition of financing, waive the condition of inspection, uh, uh, coming up to the closing date, you're going to have to finalize your purchase. And so there's really three things you need to do within 15 business days of closing. Business day is just Monday to Friday, every week, except holidays, of course. First, you're going to pool your down payment. So about approximately 5 to 10 business days before closing, you should consolidate your down payment funds into one account and prepare for closing. What do I mean by this? Well, a lot of times people will have their down payment in multiple different accounts, or if there's two people buying a home, they'll have obviously two separate bank accounts. What you should do is pool all of that money close to the closing date together. And so let's imagine you're putting $100,000 down payment. You might have money in a TFSA, you might have money in a first home savings account, you might have money in another savings account. You want to pull all those into one account so that when you do need to bring it to the lawyer and deposit it into the lawyer trust account, you can just go to that one account, withdraw all the money, and then deposit it to the lawyer's trust account. If not, you're going to be scrambling the day that you need to bring the money to the lawyer's trust account and trying to transfer things. And another note on that topic is if you do have money in a registered account, like a tax-free savings account or a first home savings account, and it's invested, it might take 3 or 4 days to even just be able to get that money out of the account and into your checking account. So just bear that in mind, which is why we say 5 to 10 business days before your closing, you should definitely have requested that money if you needed to, or consolidated it all into one account. Next, the second thing you should do when you're finalizing your purchase is you're going to set up your home insurance and your utilities. So set up your home insurance and call the utility provider in your area for the closing date. Home insurance, you can either go through some of the big home insurance providers, or you can talk to your local insurance broker. They're going to help you go through the process of getting the best insurance possible for your property. We always recommend over-insuring than under-insuring because you never know what could happen. You could have a fire, you could have a flood, things could get stolen, a lot of things could happen. So definitely don't try to reduce the insurance as much as possible because it might prove costly in the end. Utilities are important because a lot of people might forget about this step. Some municipalities, some areas allow you to set up your utilities with the provider so that they come into place on closing date. So for example, your closing date's in 7 days, you can call 7 days before and get that set up. Some utility providers and municipalities only allow you to call after the house is closed. So you're gonna have to call them anyways. I would recommend about a week before and find out which one they allow. If they allow it before, fantastic. If not, just make sure on your closing day or the day after, you get that set up. You don't want to start living in your home and you don't have electricity, you don't have water. And then lastly, the third thing you're going to have to do for finalizing your purchase is you're going to sign with your lawyer. So you're going to set a meeting with your lawyer about a week before closing to sign virtually or in person. A lot of lawyers still require you to sign in person. So you're going to want to try to find a lawyer that's actually close to you. Some allow virtually, which is fantastic as well. If you can avoid having to go into the lawyer's office, obviously you're going to save a lot of time, and it's just easier for you as opposed to going to the lawyer's office. One thing to note about the lawyer is you're going to want to reach out to whatever lawyer you're going to be using about a month before closing and let them know what you're doing. So let them know that you're purchasing a house on XYZ date because they're going to need to get your file and paperwork all prepared for that meeting the week of closing. So just make sure you reach out, tell them, look, guys, I'm buying a home on X date. Let me know what you need from me, and then they'll give you all that information. Don't be intimidated by the lawyer. When I bought my first house, I was very intimidated. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what they were going to ask of me. The lawyer is there to help you finalize the transaction and get you across the finish line. So make sure you ask your questions and reach out as early as you can, generally about 30 days to closing date, so that you can get everything answered and get everything prepared. That brings us to the end of the case study. So once you're done with the lawyer, it's going to come to closing date. You're going to get the keys. Generally, you'll get the keys actually from the lawyer or from the selling realtor. They'll get it to your realtor, and then you'll get the keys. If you have any questions about any of this information or the material, I'm going to be posting this on our YouTube and social media with a little bit more information. But if you want to reach out, definitely don't hesitate to send us a message via our direct messages on any of our social medias, or visit our website at triedandtruemortgages.ca, and you can send a message there. Our next case study is going to be on what is a refinance. So a refinance, just a little bit of information. If you don't even know what that term means, it means when you actually already own a home and maybe have a mortgage or don't. Refinancing is setting up a new mortgage on your property and taking money out for other purposes. I didn't get too much into mortgages, just quick note, I didn't get too much into mortgages and mortgage specifics in this video, but that will be another case study in the future, and going specifically and deeply into a mortgage scenario and an example. So if you're looking for that, keep your eyes peeled for another case study in the coming weeks. Like I said, if you have any questions, visit our website, triedandtruemortgages.ca, or send us a direct message, and we'll happy to get them answered for you. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.